almost shock at first. I hadn't estimated the size of the event. And, but fortunately I was on his side of the church, because I thought, well, you know, caught right at the back, but I wasn't. But just to hear what he was talking about was inspiring, in the sense that he talked about a very rounded life. And this was in terms of, you know, loving yourself, loving your neighbour, and loving God. And there was a completeness about that made sense to me. And I felt in my own battle to think through whether I wanted to journey on with the Christian experience. I think I had needed someone to talk about that love of neighbour more, make that more integral and at the heart of things. And interestingly, he affirmed us. You know, in other words, it wasn't, you can't, you know, sometimes in faith events, there's almost a dismissal of who you are and your value. That wasn't it, it was the opposite. And so I thought, oh, that was helpful. Doing something worthwhile, and then love of God, obviously. So it kind of, I went out thinking, yes, that made a lot of sense. I think the size of the impact it had is what really brought it home to me. And there's one or two rather human little things, like at the end of the service, I went off, I was hungry, went down the road, they had something down there where I ate for a while. And then I came back up, and I think I was wonder what he's doing now. In fact, what he was doing, he was in the deanery, and I think he was talking to various specific people. And but when I got up there, his little group, which was, I think, Coretta Scott King, his wife, some of the other well-known names, Andrew Young and others, and they were standing not far from here, roaring with laughter, cracking jokes with one another, and that was another important moment for me. I thought, oh, that's nice. And they didn't comment, but this 17-year-old lad stopped fairly close to them and just watched. And I think it was the humanity of that. It was fun. They were off to their next gig, you know, which was rather important. I think they pushed me into action and questioning. I talked to a teacher at the school and told him about it, and he said, have you read Bishop Trevor Huddlestone's book, Naught for Your Comfort? And I hadn't, I didn't know what he was talking about. And so he said, you ought to read that. And it was a very important book to me, and pointed, I think, to another link in a way, which was I realised more about apartheid. I'd heard what was going on, and he was able to bring home that story. And of course it was through him and the very polite way that he treated Desmond Tutu's mother that I think that Desmond Tutu somehow was, whether he came to faith or was just very much encouraged by it, but there was a very important link there. So there was certain things that I wouldn't have done probably if I hadn't been here, began to make a little more sense, became part of the repertoire in a way. I certainly think it did. I think it was helping me to understand something about spirituality, something about Christianity that I think was lacking before. Well, it's not to say there wasn't stuff before, but this was the man that was rolling up his sleeves and doing something, and I'd seen him, I suppose it was the way he was attacked and so on, and you saw that he knelt down and he actually prayed in that situation. And it began to make me think I didn't feel comfortable about violence. I was in the combined cadet force at school, and I decided I would be a pacifist, which, when I told them that, was a general shock. But there was a consistency about what Martin Luther King had said that resonated and continued to resonate. It sits next to me, if you know what I mean. We were talking at lunch about how I used to have an office in the chapter house. The last Bishop of London gave me that, and at one point. And being so close to both the Cathedral and where I'd heard him, and also that nice little laughing thing at the end, it just resonated. It just helped me. It sort of walked beside me in a sense. And I think when you come to quite difficult decisions, particularly political decisions, if you decide you're going to make a protest or write a song that's going to make a protest, you're looking at certain people and certain models, and what started that day from him, I think, stays with me. I don't mean there aren't others that do it as well, but that keeps resonating, I think. But I put a lot of the whole spark down to that day.